Did you know your blood pressure can spike before your feet even touch the floor? While you're still half dreaming, an invisible orchestra of hormones, electrolyte, and nerve signals is tuning up, deciding whether today will be a calm ballad or a pounding drum solo. If your cuff greets you with 150 over 95 every morning, it isn't just last night's salt or today's stress. It's the chain reaction of choices you make in the first 10 minutes after waking. That's why this video matters. We're not chasing hacks that nibble a point or two off your numbers. We're rewiring the entire dawn routine, so the rest of your day can't help but follow. Picture this. Sometime around 5 a.m., your adrenal glands begin dripping cortisol into your bloodstream. It's their way of tapping you on the shoulder, preparing your heart and vessels to greet the sunrise. Cortisol itself isn't the enemy. Without it, you wouldn't have the energy to stand up. The problem comes when that wake-up surge collides with dehydration, sympathetic overdrive, and sodium left over from yesterday's dinner. Your arteries tense, your kidneys cling to fluid, and before you've even brewed coffee, pressure is closing in like a vice. Most doctors hand you a prescription and remind you to avoid salt. What they rarely explain is how profoundly your morning micro-decisions either diffuse or ignite that cortisol spark. Take hydration. After 7 hours of sleep, your blood volume has thickened, roughly the consistency of maple syrup. Skip water, and your heart pumps that syrup through straw-sized arterioles. Or breathing. Stay hunched over phone the moment you wake, and shallow chest breaths tell your brain you're still under nighttime threat, pushing adrenaline higher. Even light exposure matters. Roll out of bed into a dim living room, and your circadian clock misses the cue to turn cortisol off, stretching the pressure spike into mid-morning when you're trying to drive or work. Maybe you felt it. That subtle face flush after tying your shoes, the sudden temple throb while reading emails, the dizziness when you stand too fast from breakfast. It's easy to blame age or genetics, but these are whispers from your cardiovascular system begging for a kinder launch sequence. Change the sequence, change the signal, change the numbers. That's our goal. So here's what we'll do together. Over the next few minutes, I'll hand you 5 friction-free morning habits. Actions so simple you can start tomorrow without buying gadgets or downloading apps. Each habit targets a specific pressure trigger: hydration to thin the syrup, diaphragmatic breathing to flip the autonomic switch, sunlight to shut down excess cortisol, nutrient-dense fuel to neutralize overnight sodium, and gentle movement to flood arteries with nitric oxide before stress has a chance to strike. Individually, they nudge your systolic down by 2, 3, maybe 5 points. Stacked in sequence, many viewers report double-digit drops within 2 weeks, confirmed by their own at-home monitors and, later, pleasantly surprised physicians. But before we dive into habit 1, do this mental exercise with me. Visualize tomorrow's sunrise. Instead of jolting awake to an alarm that sounds like a fire drill, imagine your eyes opening naturally, the room gently lit by morning light. You sit up, plant your feet on the floor, and feel a calm pulse, steady, unhurried. You sip water infused with a slice of lemon. Stretch your spine, breathe deep from your diaphragm, and sense your chest loosening. The cuff you wrap around your arm shows 128 over 82 instead of 148 over 96. That single change cascades. Fewer headaches, more clarity, no midday crash, and a doctor who starts discussing lower dosages instead of new medications. That vision isn't wishful thinking. It's physiology responding to routine. The 5 habits we're about to cover are your blueprint. Keep in mind, none of this is about perfection. Life happens: late dinners, stressful deadlines, noisy kids. The point is to create automatic anchors, so even on chaotic mornings, your baseline stays safer. Think of these habits as pressure insurance. Small premiums you pay up front to avoid catastrophic costs later. Ready to reclaim those first 10 minutes and make them your strongest medicine? Let's begin with the simplest habit of all, one that costs less than a penny yet can lower systolic readings by up to 6 points in clinical trials. Grab a glass, fill it with room temperature water, and stay tuned, because what you add to that water and how you drink it will set the stage for everything that follows. Habit 1. Flood your system with smart water before anything else touches your lips. The moment you swing your legs out of bed, Your blood is thicker than it will be at any other point in the day. 7 hours of quiet evaporation through breath and skin have siphoned off roughly half a liter of fluid, leaving red cells suspended in syrup instead of plasma. If you skip hydration, or worse, reach straight for coffee, you ask your heart to push that syrup through hair-thin capillaries. Systolic pressure rises 3 to 7 millimeters of mercury in healthy adults after nothing more than a mild overnight water deficit. In hypertensives, it can jump 10. Reversing that viscosity is the single cheapest intervention you can make, yet most people treat water like an afterthought. Here's the protocol. Keep a 20-ounce, 600 milliliters glass bottle on your nightstand. The night before, fill it with room temperature filtered water, squeeze in half a lemon, and add a pinch, 1/8 teaspoon, of cream of tartar, a natural source of potassium citrate. The lemon delivers citric acid that primes stomach acid production, wakes up the vagus nerve, and once metabolized, alkalizes systemic pH, making kidneys more willing to release sodium. Potassium citrate slips into renal tubules and politely tells them to trade sodium ions for potassium ions, triggering a mild diuretic effect without the electrolyte crash of prescription water pills. How to drink. Stand tall, roll your shoulders back, and down the first half in slow gulps while breathing deeply through your nose. Pause for 10 seconds to feel the fluid hit your empty stomach. This stretch activates the gastrorenal reflex, briefly increasing renal blood flow. Finish the second half over the next minute. You've just delivered nearly 600 milliliters of plasma volume back into circulation, thinned your blood, reduced peripheral resistance, and started flushing yesterday's salt before cortisol peaks. Physiological cascade. Plasma dilution lowers atrial stretch, reducing secretion of vasopressin, the hormone that instructs kidneys to hoard water. Meanwhile, potassium's entry into distal nephron segments nudges the sodium-potassium exchange pump, encouraging natriuresis. Sodium out, potassium in. The net effect? Blood volume contracts by just enough to lower pressure without triggering reflex tachycardia. Signs you're chronically deficient in morning hydration include a pounding head within 30 minutes of waking, orthostatic dizziness, blurry vision or lightheadedness when you stand, dark, concentrated first urine greater than 1.020 specific gravity, resting heart rate above 75 BPM before breakfast. Finger pulse oximeter reads normal oxygen, but fingers feel cold. Adopt this ritual for 7 days and track readings. Many see a 4 to 6 millimeters of mercury systolic drop by day 3. Couple it with habit 2, and the gains multiply. Habit 2. 3 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing to flip the pressure switch. Hydration thins the blood. Diaphragmatic breathing widens the pipes. Your autonomic nervous system runs on a seesaw. Sympathetic fight or flight on one side, parasympathetic rest and digest on the other. The morning cortisol pulse naturally tilts you towards sympathetic tone, tightening arteries to prepare for movement. The problem? In chronically stressed adults, that seesaw never tilts back, leaving vessels half closed all day. Controlled breathing is the manual override. Technique. Sit upright on the edge of the bed or stand by a window. Rest one hand on your lower belly, the other on your chest. Inhale slowly through the nose for a count of 4, feeling the belly hand rise while the chest hand stays nearly still. Hold for a count of 2. Exhale through gently pursed lips for a count of 6. Repeat for 18 cycles, roughly 3 minutes. Keep eyes softly focused on a distant point, or close to remove visual noise. Why it works. Deep diaphragmatic inhalation stretches baroreceptors in the aortic arch and carotid sinuses. Those stretch sensors fire signals to the brainstem's nucleus tractus solitarius, which respond by dialing down sympathetic outflow and activating the vagus nerve. Heart rate slows, vascular smooth muscle relaxes, and blood pressure drops, in some studies by 7 to 10 millimeters of mercury after a single session. Add a refinement. On each exhale, silently think the word release. Brain imaging research shows that attaching a calm verbal cue enhances vagal response via limbic system gating. Think of it as adding lubricant to the autonomic gear shift. Deficiency cues. Signs your breathing pattern keeps you in high-pressure mode. Rapid, shallow chest breaths. Shoulders lift when you inhale. resting respiratory rate greater than 16 per minute, difficulty completing a full sentence after mild exertion, cold hands and feet despite warm ambient temperature. Morning blood pressure only drops if you lie back down. If you catch yourself yawning after the first minute, that's the parasympathetic brake engaging. A good sign. Some viewers like to pair this with a gentle stretch. Raise arms overhead on the inhale. Sweep them down on the exhale. Mobility improves rib cage excursion, amplifying baroreceptor stretch for an even greater hemodynamic effect. Stacking habit 1 and habit 2 creates a synergistic loop. Fluid volume normalizes, vascular tone relaxes, and renal excretion of sodium accelerates. By the time you reach the kitchen, the hormonal storm that usually slams your arteries has already blown past. Now you're ready for habit 3. Harnessing light to shut down excess cortisol before it has a chance to rally. But first, practice today, water, potassium, breath. So tomorrow's cuff reading tells a story your heart has been waiting to share. Habit 3. Flood your retinas with early morning light. At 6:45 a.m., Karen shuffles from her bedroom straight to the kitchen, flips on a dim overhead bulb, and scrolls headlines under yellowish LEDs. Her coffee kicks in, yet her eyelids still feel heavy, and by 10 a.m. her cuff already blares 148/93. What Karen doesn't realize is that her body clock still thinks it's dawn. Without true daylight, her brain keeps pumping cortisol, stretching the fight or flight phase an extra 3 or 4 hours and locking vascular tone on tight. The fix? Expose your eyes and a little skin to at least 10,000 lux of natural light within 30 minutes of waking. Throw open the curtains, step onto the balcony, or simply sit beside an east-facing window while you sip the smart water you drank in habit 1. 10 minutes is good. 15 is gold. Photons striking specialized cells in your retina send a surge of electrical signals down the retino-hypothalamic tract, telling the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's master clock, to turn cortisol off and switch nitric oxide production on. Blood vessels relax and melatonin's nightly residue clears so you feel alert without adrenaline. Recipe for success: keep a lightweight jacket by the door and a folding chair on the porch. The ritual becomes automatic. Chair open, face angled toward the sky. Slow diaphragmatic breaths. From habit 2, sinking with robins in the trees. Signs you're light deficient. Grogginess that lasts past breakfast. Craving for a second coffee before 9. Or blood pressure that dips at night, yet slingshots the moment work stress appears. A week of consistent light exposure often shaves 3 to 5 millimeters of mercury off systolic readings and stabilizes HRV, heart rate variability, an early marker of autonomic balance. Habit 4. Eat a potassium-forward, sodium-neutral breakfast. Think of your arteries as rush hour highways. Overnight salt from last night's dinner is traffic. Potassium is a ramp that lets cars exit before gridlock. If the first food you eat is a salted muffin, you're adding commuters to an already jammed system. Start the day with a meal that flips the sodium-potassium ratio. Option 1. The BP bowl sweet. Half a cup steel-cut oats, slow-release carbs. 1 tablespoon chia seeds, magnesium plus omega-3. 1 diced kiwi, 215 milligrams potassium. Half a cup blueberries, anthocyanins that soften vessels. Dash of Ceylon cinnamon, improves endothelial function. Cook oats in unsweetened almond milk. Stir in chia while hot, top with fruit, dust with cinnamon. Total potassium, 700 mg sodium, less than 40 milligrams. Option 2, savory potassium kickstart. 2 eggs scrambled with spinach, 540 milligrams potassium. 1/2 avocado sliced on top, 350 milligrams potassium, healthy fats. Squeeze of lime, pinch of salt-free herb mix. Serve on a small corn tortilla or alone. Keeps insulin steady. Fuels choline for liver detox, and delivers over 900 milligrams potassium before work. Why it works: soluble fiber in oats traps bile acids, lowering LDL. Avocado's oleic acid dampens vascular inflammation. Egg yolks supply vitamin K2, directing calcium out of arteries into bones. But the main hero is potassium, coaxing kidneys to dump last night's sodium surge. Deficiency cues: Mid-morning salt craving, tension headache around 11 a.m., and cuff readings that creep up even if evenings look good. Add this breakfast 5 days straight, and many viewers report 4 to 8 millimeters of mercury systolic drops plus steadier glucose, bonus for insulin resistance. Habit 5, 7 minutes of nitric oxide boosting movement. Imagine your endothelium, the satin lining inside every artery, as a field of solar panels. When blood flows faster, panels flex and produce nitric oxide and O, signaling vessels to widen. You don't need a marathon. You need brief, strategic movement that spikes shear stress just enough to open the NO floodgates. Routine, no equipment, office-friendly. Heel raises, 60 seconds. Stand tall, lift heels high, lower slowly. Pumps venous blood upward, unloading ankles. Wall push UPS, 45 seconds. Hands on wall, body straight, press in and out. Activates large muscle groups. Triggers NO release. Deep breathing squats, 60 seconds. Inhale down, exhale up. Combines diaphragm work with leg muscle demand. A double NO stimulant. Arm swings plus shoulder rolls, 45 seconds. Cross arms in front. Open wide, roll shoulders back. Opens thoracic outlet, improves lymph flow. March in place or mini jog, 90 seconds. Knees to hip level if possible. Increases heart rate to 60 to 70% max, optimum for endothelial stretch. Figure 4 hip stretch plus neck nod, 60 seconds each side. Balances sympathetic overdrive, lengthens tight glutes, reduces lower back pressure spikes. Total, 7 minutes. Finish with 1 diaphragmatic breath cycle. You've completed a full autonomic reset. Why 7 minutes? Research from the University of Missouri shows that just 3 minutes of moderate muscle contractions can elevate plasma NO for up to an hour. Stretch it to 7, and you reach the threshold where endothelial nitric oxide synthase, eNOS, stays active through your commute. Modifications for limited mobility. Seated calf pumps. Seated overhead reaches. Resistance band pulls. Even minimal contractions create laminar flow improvements. Common hypertensive complaints this habit tackles. Morning lightheadedness, improved venous return. Cold extremities, enhanced peripheral perfusion. Afternoon energy crash, better oxygen delivery. White coat spikes, better autonomic resilience. Nancy, a 62-year-old viewer from Ohio, added this routine between coffee brewing and shower. Her 3-week follow-up email showed morning readings drop from 146/92 to 132/85. Even on work days, without changing medication. Threading habits together. Smart water thins blood volume. Diaphragmatic breathing relaxes vascular tone. Morning light shuts cortisol off at the source. Potassium-forward breakfast neutralizes sodium and fuels endothelial repair. 7-minute NO burst stretches vessels open and keeps them flexible. Stacked end-to-end, these habits form a physiological domino effect. Thinner blood plus relaxed arteries plus lower cortisol plus balanced electrolytes plus elevated nitric oxide equals significant compound blood pressure reduction before lunch. You've now shifted from reacting to numbers to pre-engineering them. And if a hectic morning derails one habit, the other four still buffer you from the full hypertensive roller coaster. Over time, even a 5 millimeters of mercury average drop can cut stroke risk by 14% and fatal heart attack by 9%. Numbers no multitasking pill can promise without side effects. Practice these tomorrow, log your readings, and get ready for part 4, where we seal the deal with a motivational recap and a challenge that turns these rituals into a lifelong autopilot. Your cuff doesn't get the final word. You do. This morning you poured smart water into an engine that had run dry overnight, taught your lungs to flip the pressure switch from fight to flow, bathed your eyes in sunrise chemistry, traded the salt trap for a potassium feast, and sent a wave of nitric oxide through every arterial mile. 5 habits, 10 painless minutes, and you rewired the very physics of your bloodstream before the world could throw a single curveball. Remember, even modest drops add up. Trim just 5 millimeters of mercury from your average, and you slash stroke risk, heart attack risk, and the silent damage no smartwatch ever shows. These aren't hacks. They're evidence-backed leverage you now control. So take a second, Look at the number you want to see on tomorrow's monitor and picture already there. Then commit. Water waiting at the bedside, breath that fills the belly, light on your face, potassium on your plate, movement in your muscles. If you felt a difference just imagining that flow, imagine what 30 days will do. Did this guide give you a clear next step? Smash the like button so YouTube shows it to the millions still waking up to dangerous readings. Subscribe and ring the bell. Every week we break another piece of hypertension mythology and replace it with a tool you can use the same day. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment telling me which of the 5 habits you'll start tomorrow and what your baseline numbers are. I'll be in the replies cheering every victory and answering questions. Your heart has been carrying the weight of high pressure for years. Today you lifted some of that weight. Let's keep going together